Hi everyone, I'm Marissa Evangelista, a gallery assistant at MFA, and I'm here to introduce JR Rapier. We have the honor of learning more about her incredible range of work. JR is from Austin, Texas, and she is now a resident of Maryland. Her work contains familiar fantastical themes with an underlying surrealism. In her body of work, you will see that JR may enhance the drama of these themes or explore a quieter beauty. You can still see her work in person at 49 West until October 2nd. And for those who are attending Collector's Choice, you may get the chance to go home with one of her pieces as well. I'd also like to briefly introduce our host, Will Scott. He is an art historian who bridges the gap between artists and the public.
Thank you, Marissa. But more than thanking Marissa, who always does a great job with technical support and more on Will Talks, thanks to JR for agreeing to talk with us. JR, you're new to Annapolis and new to the MFA, and I've already been struck by your work. It's interesting and unique. And I'm not the only one who was struck by it because a piece that you had in our recent exhibit called The Changing Americas won an award. It's not your first award, I know, but it's nice that you're merging into our organization and bringing your talent to us as well. But I'd like to look at the second of your works that we have to talk about before I talk about the first one. So, Marissa, if you could pull that one up. We've already had a couple of conversations. We've worked on hanging an exhibit or two and met at some of the receptions, I think. So I'm a little ahead of the rest of our audience. So if I ask questions that you and I have already talked about, I hope you don't mind. But this is a work of yours that I hadn't seen before. And as soon as I saw it, it kind of clicked into some of the questions I know I've already asked you face to face. And what this makes me think about are those wonderful skies and clouds and vistas that Texas has. And you've come here from Austin, which is a dynamic cultural center, renowned for music, but I know there's a lot of other cultural creators that are in Austin. So, what do you find that's different? And was the move one that is sort of seamless for you as an artist, or not? I mean, how could you, as a photographer, I can't resist those vistas and those clouds.
Yeah, so Texas definitely has a widespread vista, meaning like there are no trees that get in the way. You can easily get up high and see a great sunset. But here, I have noticed that, I'm seeing the sky through a rather canyon of, 100-foot trees. So, it's actually for me, I don't know if the pixie dust is ever gonna, dissipate. But for me, my canvases have suddenly changed to vertical and not wide like the Texas sky. But the one thing that I have noticed the most is when there's a storm coming, that cloud is right up on top of you. And that doesn't really happen in Texas. You
Yeah,
see it from afar,
yeah,
you see it coming, basically. And then here, it's just right on top of you. Like you can see it very, I mean, it's almost like the aliens are coming, this
yeah,
massive cloud right on
yeah.
top of you. And I've been told it's because of the bay, um, that sometimes the pressure and the water, I mean, I don't know. And an oceanographer explained that to me. And I don't remember exactly, but what he
Well,
said. But, that was interesting, and I think it's has definitely inspired me to paint these clouds. Even though I have been taking photographs of clouds, forever,
yeah,
seems like.
yeah.
But
If you've
finally,
been taking photographs of clouds,
mhm,
why are you a painter?
just to post them on Instagram. I don't know. They're I mean, they're fascinating to me. And now that I'm here and they're so much closer, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah,
I think I need to start painting these. And there's a painter he now lives in Arizona, but I met him in Taos, and he is a fabulous painter of clouds. So after seeing his work and seeing how he worked, I was kind of inspired, not to copy him, of course, but because he's like fabulous cowboys and Indians painter.
Uh-huh.
That intrigued me, the way he painted the clouds. So I'm taking a stab at it for myself in my own representation.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's kind of ironic that we're talking about the clouds. My piece that was in the exhibition but didn't win any honors, it happened to be a photograph that I took on the plains in um, Colorado, where, just like you were saying, there was a storm coming in the summer, but coming across the Rockies. I could see the Rockies and it's coming at me. I had so much time. I pulled my car to the side of the road, got out, got my camera, took a picture of it, got in before the rain even started. But you're right. Here, it just all of a sudden they can appear on you because you don't have that vista for miles and miles and miles.
Right.
Um, in your artist statement, and in our conversations, you've alluded to the sort of surreal aspect of
Mhm.
your work. And of course, surrealism is to art historians a definite movement in the history of modern art, but it's also become a word that has a very broad meaning. Um, you have uh, education and training, formal training in the arts. So when you say surreal, are you referring to any particular of the surrealist masters, or do you just mean that sense of hyper reality or a reality other than the ordinary everyday perception of reality?
Yeah, the latter, more of the you know, colors are more intense than in reality, or the perspective is off and it's not realistic. In my collection that I painted prior to coming here, it was mostly figurative. And in that work, I explored a lot of different, just putting animal skulls or animal heads on human figure, and making a story out of it. So that's the fantasy surrealism that I'm kind of talking about. And then, moving into the landscape, I'm taking a color that I've kind of like been drawn to, and um, just kind of expanding that and making the whole piece about pink or
Mhm. Mhm.
coral.
That's one of the things I wanted to ask you about because I've driven all the way across Texas twice, and I don't think I've ever seen this kind of pink that reached all the way into the clouds. I'm not sure I've seen it on the ground even on such an expansive way. So, would it be fair? Would you be comfortable with me saying that you're sort of a visionary surrealist or something like that?
That would be fitting. I'd be honored to be called that. Yeah, I have seen Texas skies be this neon coral all the way to the ground,
Yeah.
and then the hay fields turn into, like in this piece, two barns, the hay fields turn into this weird muted greenish blue color.
Uh-huh.
At least that's what it looks like in the photographs
Yeah.
of it. So it's not bright, hay color in
Yeah.
real life.
Mhm. Well,
It
that's really fascinating, and of course, that gives you a lot more room for your individual creativity and expression. We did have that pink sky here a couple of months ago, and I'd never seen it before here.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what caused it. I've seen those fiery sunsets year in recent years. The Western fires with all the
Mhm.
smoke coming all the way to the East Coast make these vivid sunrises and sunsets. But it literally was almost the pink that you have here as the predominant color in the middle ground of this painting of yours. Um, but talking about your figurative work, let's jump ahead to the third image, because as soon as I saw this on your website, I was mesmerized by it. It's kind of both on a personal kind of, just a gut response as a viewer of an artist's work that I'm not familiar with, but as an art historian, this just has the wheels spinning like crazy, which I think you can understand. And so we'll start with the ram's skull. This is a motif that you've used repeatedly in your work, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what's the origin of it? Encountering them while you're traveling out in the plains and on the deserts, or is there another art historical source?
Well, all I can say is when I started painting the figurative and the skulls, my daughter was going through middle school mythology,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, getting immersed into that with her homework and stuff. I thought it was pretty cool, and it kind of bled into, not even realizing it, but it bled into my work, her schooling. So, I mean, she went into the Norse mythology and the Greek,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
and that's when I started painting just skulls, and then I would adorn them with flowers and reptiles and all sorts of stuff to make a portrait of a mythical beast
Mm-hmm.
or a mythical god or whatever. And then I kind of ran out of skull ideas. And so I started putting them, or I started thinking, maybe I'll try figurative again, because it had been decades since I had been to a figure drawing class or even attempted to draw the human figure. So that kind of easily transferred into the figurative work I started working with. But I didn't have in this particular piece, and I did several pieces in this group. This particular piece, I asked if I could sit in on a dance class. So I
Mm-hmm.
went to dance class in Austin and took and they were like, sure, just as long as we can get the images and use them too. Um, and it was just practice. I mean, they were being weird and on purpose so I could get some weird like um dancing positions, I guess. A lot of people think that this is a male because the dancer's legs are just so like
Yeah.
muscular.
Yeah.
But I just started making stories out of, coupling the
Yeah.
mythology, the mask on the dancer, and making it more theatrical.
Yeah. Well, I think you've done a wonderful job because it is so evocative and it has all of these sort of different aspects, and trying to think about them and put them together in a whole is part of what makes art wonderful. You had your creative process, but as you know, once you put it out and let somebody else look at it, they're going to have their own creative process essentially, if they're really looking and trying to think about what they're seeing. Okay, so I'm going to do a little art history here, and if I say something that you think is way off base and you just can't let it pass, don't let it pass. Because here's what I'm going to say: you're from Texas. You're a modern female artist, and Georgia O'Keeffe, her earliest works, her most abstract works in some degrees, were painted in West Texas, where she was teaching school. And I'm a big fan of Georgia O'Keeffe's. So when I saw this and saw the ram's skull, I just, O'Keeffe. But you're telling me it's something much more personal and much more unique, not derivative from O'Keeffe.
Not necessarily, but I mean, from the age of 6 years old, I saw my first O'Keeffe show at the Kimball Art Museum in Fort Worth, Texas,
Yeah,
grandmother. And that's when I was like, oh my God, who is this person? And studied up on her and love her work. Um,
Yeah, and you can't get that once that's that deep in your head,
you've done the
doesn't go
whole,
away,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's just there.
It's there
Okay,
permanently, unconsciously, actually.
yeah, that happens to me all the time. I'll take a photograph and then somebody else will look at it and say, "Oh, you must have been thinking of so and so." Well, not consciously.
Right.
Okay, couple of things that are really puzzling to me are first the sort of the garden lights, the string
Mhm.
lights. Were they in the room, or did you just
I
think
just
that
made
they
it up.
could be?
I made it up. I painted this at the beginning of the pandemic. So I got super creative in isolation. And this painting was one of, I don't know how many I painted because I got pretty prolific when you couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Uh, and my work kind of started assimilating the emotional landscape at the time. Like,
Mhm.
everyone was isolated, frustrated, uncertain what's going to happen. And you just kind of get stuck with yourself. I developed maybe 30 paintings that went into a show called the Symphony of Entities.
Oh.
And this was one of them.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was called the Symphony of Entities, Portraits of the Human Condition. And, I kind of just formulated all these are portraits of um, these personalities and emotions
Yeah.
that showed up. And this one is painted from a model, but a lot of them were painted from my head. Um, and they came out very strange. When you're isolated, so much of the human interaction is energy and nonverbal.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you can't
Well,
sit there and talk to each other all day long about your
yeah.
stuff. So it kind of transferred onto all my paintings.
I can sort of feel that even looking at an image on a computer monitor, not even looking directly at the canvas, where I would suspect that it would be even stronger. There's such um, it's so complex and multi-layered. What you just said was, I think, a surprisingly clear articulation, not of what you were saying, but how you were creating it, how you created the image, and it's wonderful. But this is the thing that I can't resist, just as being myself, but also being an art historian. Zeus landing, and here's where before you respond to anything or I make a direct question out of it, about the Marvel heroes, right? That whole series of action movies with the superheroes. You have you have at least one teenager, right? So you must know something about them.
Yes.
Isn't this the way Thor always comes down from the sky and lands? You
And
know
he's,
that?
yeah, right.
Okay, Zeus and Thor for a contemporary woman artist with your talent. That seems like an odd choice to me.
So I don't know if I have my mythology right, but is Thor the god of war or thunder or something?
Thunder,
So,
thunder for sure. I'm not sure whether he's also war, but it's kind of the same thing.
right. So I'm
If you think that I'm just crazy and off base, you can say that.
that's, I've been told that many times. So I'm not going to ever say that to someone else. Um,
Or you can say it to me because I've been told that many times.
um,
Anyway,
yeah.
why Zeus? Why call it Zeus? I've never seen as an art historian, I've never seen a representation of Zeus with a ram's head.
Well, I think, Zeus has used the ram's head, or at least I read it somewhere. I don't know if this is true or not, but it is a symbol of strength and courage. And Zeus is full of strength and courage.
Yeah.
But also, you know, age, this time and age for women, um, as a whole, we're coming in stronger and, fighting back for our rights. So,
I sure hope so.
yeah, so this kind of represents the female taking over, not taking over, but, at least being the Zeus of their sovereignty
Mhm, mhm.
and making a stand and standing up for themselves and with strength and courage. And that's for the ram's head.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that with us because that really helps me understand and see a different aspect of you as an artist in this particular piece. Unfortunately, I'm enjoying this conversation. I wish we could look at a few more of your works, especially the figural works, because all the ones I had a chance to quickly look at on your webpage fascinated me in a similar way. And I would love to talk more with you, but we have a limited amount of time, and we're trying to get these things in a compact format that we can edit quickly, get out while the shows are still up. In this case, we didn't meet that deadline because the show did just come down, but we wanted to share your work with our audience and hope that you'll submit more to our exhibits and
Of course.
the audience will be able to come and see more of your wonderful work. So, JR, thank you.
Yes.
And Marissa, thank you for your technical support.